tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@caymanmarlroad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Good evening, folks. Good evening, folks. What is going on? How is everyone? I am tired today. What day is it today? I feel like it's Friday. Well, it's only Thursday. Tomorrow is going to be Friday. We're almost there. Hope you guys had a good, productive day. Whoa, what a day it was here in the Cayman Islands. Lots of interesting tidbits, lots of interesting news, as a matter of fact. And it comes as no surprise to me, really, that Mr. VJ and his 18-year-old girlfriend, Skylar, have decided to appeal the decision. Anybody surprised by this? I am really not particularly surprised, to be honest. Let's see who is locked in here with me. Good evening to Morna. Good to see you. Hey, Crystal. Hi, Maureen. Big shout out to everybody at the grocery store this evening. I don't know why, but it seems like everywhere I went this evening, there was somebody there who was like, Miss Cayman Mall Road. Oh my gosh, it was quite funny. I don't know if there's been some sort of, I don't know. It's just weird. Like everybody was just super, super friendly. I guess 'tis the season. So thank you guys so much. It was so good seeing you guys. So yeah, the latest is Skylar, Mac, and VJ Ramjeet have both decided, I should say, the two of them, to file an appeal. And I guess this is probably Skylar's idea, her and her folks. I think it's stupid, personally, and I don't think that they are going to necessarily win the appeal. And in fact, I don't think an appeal that judges tend to add time on, but I kind of feel like if they could, that they would in this situation. It really seems like a lot of entitlement and wasting the resources of the people. And it says more about Skylar and Vanjie than it does anything else. And I think it's really a sad state of affairs that they would decide to, to go ahead and waste the people's resources on this. I mean, come on. We do have more important things to do. But I tell you what, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let me have a think about this. Barbara, are you getting ready to get out of quarantine? Barbara is still celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday, Barbara. Thank you so much for tuning in. Luis is here. Hello, Luis. How are you? So Barbara says, I don't look tired. Oh, thank you. But I'm tired. I feel like I'm in for a nap right now. So listen, I was thinking about this and I said to myself, Joy and Olivia, Catherine, you guys can tell me what you think of this. This really reeks of entitlement to me. This is the sort of thing. And of course, Catherine is one of my good American friends. But this is the sort of thing that I kind of go, It makes me a little bit uncomfortable when Americans go elsewhere and they do not appreciate that everywhere you go, there are rules to follow. And, if you don't follow the rules, there will be consequences to pay. And when the consequences are at your doorstep, you are not going to like it necessarily, but normally you've got to live with it. And I think this appeal just says we're not the type of people who are going to accept this no matter what. Now, let me be very clear. As someone who has just gone through her own court ordeal and is in a better position than anyone to probably understand how these young people are feeling, nobody likes to be found guilty of anything, whether you did it or not, I suppose, at the end of the day. Their situation was a little bit more clear cut in terms of their culpability and what they actually did. But a lawyer said to me yesterday, because I am even thinking, like, should I appeal my situation? Not so much the sentencing, but the actual verdict itself does raise some very interesting legal questions for me and concerns about whether or not the right verdict was reached. And a lawyer said to me yesterday, you know what they always tell, this person's a defense lawyer, and she said, I always tell my clients to sleep on it, give it a couple of days, because you are very emotional in the aftermath of any verdict, of any court decision. And I can tell you, as an 18-year-old, being in Skylar's position, I can only imagine what she must be feeling like. And yes, she has to be super emotional in the circumstances. And, I wouldn't say my lawyer, but a lawyer friend said, sleep on it, because after you've had a little bit of time to chew on it and digest, you may really just feel like, just walk away and leave this alone. Now, of course, if you're going to be spending Christmas in jail, folks, away from your family, you're 18 years old, VJ is 24 years old. That is a hard pill to swallow, right? Even though Northward and Fairbanks are probably not that bad, more so Fairbanks than Northward. You're going to have Christmas dinner. You're going to be okay. You're going to get your Christmas phone call and all that sort of thing. It still is a tough pill to swallow in terms of knowing that you're going to be away from your family for the holidays. So I do feel for them, but I do think that the judge also made the right decision in terms of sending the right message, given the severity of what they actually did. Now, our American friends feel particularly strong about it, and they have taken to calling us all sorts of names under the sun. They claim that we don't have any sense, and we are like, what was the one word that one of them used? Hold on here, I'll show you, because we've got a WhatsApp message here with it. Sorry. So Winnie, good evening, my dear. Thank you so much. She says, good night, woman of strength. I appreciate your love and support. Miss Amelia is here. Mitzi, beautiful Mitzi's here. Odette, Carol says that appeal should be thrown out. I thought they were fortunate in the first case, the summary court. The grand court said not so fast, overruled it. He gave, in my opinion, especially the amount of time that he had to consider it, good reasons as to why he overturned the decision. So let's have a look at what some people are now thinking about us. Hello, Amelia. Lenny wants to know, how was she even able to come to Cayman? I thought you had fallen into certain categories, including having family members here. Sorry, did she say she was engaged or something? I don't get it. Lenny, that is one of the persistent questions that we've been asking on this program that we've never received any sort of feedback on. And to be quite frank, I wish the government would address this, because I'm curious to know exactly how it happened. I think a lot of people, are thinking that, right, the government has said these are the instances under which you can come in, but clearly there appears to have been some sort of an exception that was made in her case. And what was that exception all about? Why? And I think Lenny asked a very valid question. Could it be a situation where she actually lied to the authorities? Because as we can see, she's lied to the authorities before. So it's not as though this would be, beneath her to do that. It is something that is certainly possible. So inquiring minds want to know, did she lie to the authorities? But even being engaged, to me, that's not good enough. But I guess if she had said that, maybe it might have convinced them to allow her to come. Who knows, Lenny? I wish I could answer the question. Shirley says, are they getting free counsel like from the public defender's office? No, they have a paid lawyer. His name is Jennifer. Sorry, Shirley. His name is Jonathan Hughes. And I'm guessing that Daddy Dearest is footing the bill for her. She's got the money, obviously. Daddy's got the money. And those of you who watched the video that was posted earlier, you get the sense, even when her grandmother's like, poor little Granny. I don't know why they put Granny out there. Like, honestly, somebody rein Granny in. I wanted to jump up and song about how Santa got ran over by the reindeer or something. It was Grandma's fault. Don't put Granny out there as the face of this. To me, I thought that was so incredibly disingenuous. Crystal says Skylar's gone viral. Well, not just Skylar, folks. Skylar, VJ, and the Cayman Islands has gone viral. Folks, People Magazine, it was on, let me tell you where else. Good Morning America, right? Where else did it go? It was hold on, there's another one. WSB TV out of Atlanta, talking about a Gwinnett County college student, teenager, only 18 years old, is now in a Cayman Islands jail. It has literally, Skylar will, in some regards, become a bit of a celebrity because of what has transpired. Let me see. Before last week, I guess out of little Gwinnett County, no one had heard of Skylar. Let me just do a Google search. Kay, thank you so much for joining the CMR family tonight. Diana is here. Good evening to you, my love. Johan says anybody that could afford it should seek to appeal their conviction and sentence. The system affords persons to do so. Therefore, why not try to appeal the verdict and sentence? Well, Charm, thank you for tuning in. I think that the reason why most people don't do it is because if the judicial system has worked. So in her case, there wasn't a question about her guilt. They actually admitted guilt. And there was immense evidence in terms of what she had done and the far extent to which she had gone. So you kind of think that guilty people will leave well enough alone, especially when you have admitted your guilt. It's something else, I suppose, if you're still pretending you're not guilty. But when you have admitted your guilt and you understand that there's a punishment that should come with that, you don't really get to dictate what the punishment is. But Johan says you have a right to appeal it. So, hey, it is what it is. Folks, this young lady has gone viral. Let me tell you all the different media houses now. Heavy has it breaking news. Skylar Mack, 5 facts you need to know. That was posted 2 hours ago. AGC.com, I don't even know who the heck that is. Cayman Islands court sentences Georgia teen to 4 months in prison. Some of the headlines are crazy. CBS 46 News out of Atlanta. Loganville teen boyfriend get 4 months in prison for breaking quarantine in the Cayman Islands. The New York Post, U.S. Student jailed for violating quarantine in Cayman Islands, reports. The Sun, she's truly gone international. Georgia woman, 18, the Cayman Islands Bew, sentenced to prison for breaking quarantine to watch his jet ski race. Now, that's a very long title. It says costly mistake. The Sun out of the UK. Can you shorten that title? That was a bit long. And that goes on. Ooh, they've got a new picture of Skylar. Child, let me grab this picture. Because I feel like CMR has been using the same photo over and over again. This is a cute one of her too. You rocked that jumpsuit there, Skylar, honey. Looking good in that picture. Anyway, poor Vanjie, they only have the one of him in his jet ski outfit. But yeah, they've gone viral. They got to find a way. Oh, here's another one of him on the beach. He looks a lot younger there with his shirt down. And it says credit Facebook. So they went to his Facebook profile and they found a picture of him and they've credited it to Facebook. That's really funny. That is hilarious, actually. I like that. So yeah, there's a lot of articles out there, folks, of this duo. And wow. They're all over the place. They are all over the place. I mean, really, really and truly. All right, let's see who else carried the story. Of course, local news had it. All the news station. KOKI Fox 23, Cayman Islands jails U.S. college student in coronavirus case. That's just on the front page of Google. We go on. Yahoo Voices, American teen sentenced to months in prison for breaking Cayman Islands quarantine. Yes, sir. KTLA out of Atlanta, Los Angeles. Oh, that's a different story. Sorry. But wait a minute. That's also in there, but it's talking about the title doesn't match, but the body is about them. It must be a series of stories. Reputed mobster admits assaulting real wife's hubby. Okay, what does that have to do with Skylar Mack? A different headline is coming up, so it must be a series of stories once again. Yep, so lots of news coverage all over the place. This has indeed gone viral. Someone says watching the show seems like Cayman only gets international attention when it's something negative. Well, you know what? I don't think that this is something that is negative. I believe for us, this shows people that we will enforce the rules that we have here. This is not a banana republic. You do not come here and disrespect the Cayman Islands, disrespect our rules and laws, and think just because, ooh, it's the Cayman Islands, you can get away with it. But clearly, based on the feedback that I've seen, that's how people feel. They feel like we don't have a right to put an American in jail probably for anything that they do. And to me, that's kind of shocking, really, to have that kind of attitude. So now all of a sudden we're getting a lot of negativity. Oh, you guys are so disgusting and you're like drug runners and blah, blah, blah. You're a bunch of criminals. You know, this is what people do when they have nothing legit to say about what has transpired. They try to just throw anything at you. So there was a case in Canada, but I couldn't get the final outcome of the situation where, again, a man was also facing prison time and a substantial fine for illegally entering Canada during COVID. And that was another interesting situation where people just feel like they're above the law. And I'm sorry, but a lot of Americans seem to have that attitude. So Crystal says, do you think Skylar and the other guy have already gotten enough punishment? They already received global embarrassment and paid fines. I personally stand by the law. However, I pity them. Pity is one thing. And I pity a lot of criminals, to be honest. And pity does not mean that you're not going to serve your time. I mean, you know, yeah, I pity all sorts of people. But I don't think that just because I feel sorry for you, that's going to have any bearing on what the outcome is. So international embarrassment, yeah. I am positive if Skylar could rewind the clocks of time, knowing all of this, and this is why they say hindsight is 2020, she would do it all differently if she knew what was coming down the pipeline. And this is a tough lesson for an 18-year-old, but I can assure you that she will never forget this lesson. And the wrong lesson is sent when we turn around and we say to people, well, hold on a second, you've admitted guilt. Yes, you've done this wrong. However, despite that, we're going to give you a pass just because. Because there's no legal reason here why they should be getting a pass. So Leslita says something doesn't add up. Granny. Yeah, Jeremy. I don't know why they put Granny out there. I guess all of you by now have seen the video. Granny was like, why did they have to make an example out of my little pumpkin? And I'm sure everybody says that. Every criminal is thinking, why do they have to make an example? Well, they had to make an example out of her because she was the first one who breached the law. That was it. It was as simple as that. In terms of the new, more stricter provisions. So a lot of people are like, well, why couldn't the Canadians have gotten it? Trust me, had this same law been in place, the Canadians would be spending 9 months a year in jail. And rightfully so, because look at how many times they breached the COVID restrictions. And this is why it is very, very important to have good, solid legislation in place to address breaches when they happen. So thank God that it was eventually passed. And yeah, anybody who's putting, I think in Cayman, we've been a little bit lax recently about the whole COVID situation. Even the 19-year-old kid, everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen to him. But listen, it is now a situation where someone could infect, just one person is all it takes, can infect a number of people, and we would have community spread all over again. People could get sick. People could die. We're shutting back down the economy. I mean, the fallout could be humongous. Rachel says grandma is probably not even close to the family, and everyone else is probably told not to speak to the press. Who knows? Rachel, maybe grandma wanted her 15 minutes too. She's like, heck, I've lived all my life and I ain't been in the news. So come on, Skylar. Don't you be stealing all the highlight. We can speculate, Rachel. We do not know, but I do think it's interesting. Crystal mentions it was also in the Washington Post. I do think it is interesting that that she would not, a closer family member, aka her parents, would not speak directly on this. So it's all over the place. KCAU, UCLA, KTLA, KSN TV, everywhere. Unbelievable, but it's all over. Channel 8 News. Yes. So dad is, I'm sure, paying the legal bill for both of them because poor VJ is unemployed, as the court learned. And he barely looks like he had the money to pay for his quarantine, the $2,600. He had to pay his in portions, whereas Skylar was able to pay hers right away without any, she didn't have to bat the eye because, of course, daddy took care of it. Linda says, my understanding is that the travel restrictions are lifted to anyone, not just residents. You can come for more than 14 days and pay for quarantine, and you can come now, but rules change a lot, so can't be sure without reviewing the regulations. I didn't realize, Skylar, if that is the case, that had been done. It's possible. Let me just see here, because I thought the reopening was for particular categories. So someone just sent it to me. I'm just having a quick perusal of it. So personal responsibility, blah, blah, blah. So PCR testing, monitoring through geofencing, random checks and penalties for non-compliance. But who can come in? I still thought it was, okay, so it says check that you're included in the categories of eligible travelers. So eligible travelers include Caymanians, permanent residents, work permit holders and their families, persons who own residential property within the Cayman Islands, and students with a valid student visa to study. Persons with close family ties to Cayman residents or work permit holders such as spouses, fiancés, parents, grandchildren, siblings, and so on. but she doesn't fall into any of those categories. So I don't know. She's not a fiance. It's a good question. I do not see any category there that she should certainly be falling under. She doesn't own property here because she was staying at his family's place in North Side. She's not a student. She's not coming to study in the Cayman Islands. Definitely not Caymanian. Definitely doesn't have PR. So it remains a mystery to me, folks, how she got in to begin with. Kadu says, how did the judge come up with that sentence? Were they unable to pay the full fine and in return the judge gave them prison time? No. What happened, Kadu, is the judge said that the first judge got it wrong. And he, there were no specific, it's a tough one because there's no precedent. So basically he has set a precedent in a way, right? But he referred to what the law says and the things that the judge looked at and what she considered, and essentially said that she did not give enough weight to certain things. And one of the things that the judge said, the magistrate in summary court, was the fact that she would have given a more severe sentence had Skylar not been leaving on, I think she was already scheduled to leave like on the 22nd or the 24th or whatever, right? So Judge Chappelle on Tuesday said that that should not have made a difference. That should not have weighed heavily on the judge's mind. And I think he's absolutely right, because the prosecution also made the point. When someone comes into the Cayman Islands and they commit a crime, you say, oh, well, they have a ticket to leave next week, so they come in here and commit a murder. That doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. Think about it. How many Jamaicans come on our shores, commit a crime? Europeans, it doesn't matter where you're from. They eventually have a ticket to go somewhere else. Sometimes they're even here on a cruise ship, and they're supposed to go back that day. If we set this policy that, oh gosh, they have to get back on the cruise ship, so we can't punish them severely or in the right way because they have a plane to catch or a cruise, a boat to go back on, that doesn't even make any logical sense, much less legal sense. That cannot be a factor that you take into consideration when deciding what sentence is appropriate. And so that's what the judge said. The magistrate considered some things erroneously, and for other things, such as the public outcry, she didn't, or the public impact of this crime as well, she did not put enough emphasis, if any at all, on that aspect of it when it came to deciding what was a fair and equitable sentence. Having said that, the judge started at a certain point. I want to say it was, I'll have to look back at my notes, but say it was 18 months or whatever. He went back and he knocked off, okay, for any double jeopardy considerations, I'm going to take off 5 months, 6 months, whatever. So he knocked off a lot out of what would have been a sentence for her, for this couple. The other thing that he did, which I think was really important, is that he put both defendants on equal footing, which was something that Magistrate Hernandez had not done. She had penalized the Caymanian more than the visitor for basically the same offense. And I thought, why? And it seems in my mind that the basis that she used was a prejudicial basis because, oh, you're Caymanian, you're supposed to know better. Yeah, but this girl saw the contract, signed the contract before entry, knew all of the requirements. It wasn't Vanjay who did all of that, although he certainly understands that what she did was wrong and it should not have been done. He didn't sign the contract to say, if I do this and this and this and this, I know I'm definitely potentially going to jail and this is against the law and these are all the penalties. She did. Allison says, as a displaced tourism employee, I have lost my entire way of life. I've been a tourism employee all of my adult life, prepared to build a lifelong career in it as my father and grandfather did. And this is a sacrifice thousands of us have made in order to keep our borders closed. We're all sacrificed months during our own quarantine and lockdown restrictions. We all remember not being able to leave the yard, go shopping when we wanted, etc. Not only did she break out to not be responsible, and unfortunately the rest of that is cut off, Allison, if you want to copy and put in another message. So Rachel says that she heard she was around a child. Yes. My apologies. She was holding somebody's child at the quarantine, at the jet ski facility, under a tent. Okay. And that child had to then go into quarantine with her parent, her mom, who is a civil servant, having government tell them, the civil servants, that they would now have to use vacation time, their vacation, to, take care of the time that they're going to spend in quarantine, which is really unfair. Karen says, hopefully this keeps the misfits out. Well, listen, this has sent a message around the world. Shockwaves. Everybody right now is going, ooh, them people in the Cayman Islands, they don't play around, man. They're shots fired. Did everybody hear that? Kaboom! We're dropping that mic, that bomb. Larry says ABC New York first had it. Good evening. Thank you, Larry. Oh God, here's another case. What is this one? A man who rode jet ski from Scotland to Ireland to see girlfriend jailed for COVID breach. Woo-wee. We're going to look that one up, Linda. Wow. These people are not easy. Sue says the comments on social media regarding the Cayman Islands are horrible. You do the crime, you do the time. Let's have a look at one of those comments that I saw. Rude is not even the word here. Here's this guy named Tom at Ola2786. This is Twitter. He says, with an island crawling with drugs, crime, it's amazing that they picked out this white couple, now that's funny, to prosecute and make an example of. Everyone knows that if they were Black, none of this would have happened. When you go to a third world country, we know what Trump correctly called them. Wow, Tom, get your shit together, my gosh. First of all, you ain't got your facts straight. The Cayman Islands is not crawling with drugs and crime. It is one of the safest places in the world. And that is precisely why persons like Skylar want to come here during COVID. It is safe regardless of COVID. But we are safe, relatively speaking, from crime. Yes, like everywhere else, we have some crime. But to call us to say that we're crawling with drugs and crime, whoa, Tom or Ton or whatever your name is, get yourself together. That is nowhere near the truth. Satish, good evening to you, my dear. Sean says, keep in mind that most Americans are casting dispersions in Cayman, are part of that 75% that don't have passports and probably have never left their state, let alone their country. I'm just saying. And Sean, you are right about that. It's a good point. There are a lot of Americans who don't have the benefit of being able to travel anywhere. And so they believe every episode of NCIS where they're talking about we're a bunch of money launderers, that is the truth. When in fact, the biggest country to launder money in happens to be the United States of America, if we were telling the truth. Little Ton here goes on to say that they were a white couple. Well, Vanjie ain't white, honey. So I don't know where you got that from, but he is a Caymanian, and I don't know where his mom is from exactly. I mean, his mother's Caymanian. I don't know exactly where his father is from. Is his father from Trinidad? But anyway, he's not considered white, folks, by no stretch of the imagination. So I don't know what white couple Tom is talking about, but it can't be Vanjay. Yes, obviously Skylar is white. But I don't think that a white judge had any concerns about what color they were. I can assure you of that. Someone on social media made the comment that, oh, call the Queen, report it to the UK. And I said, please be reminded that the judge who made the decision actually is English. He's not even a Caribbean judge. Okay? Judge Chappelle is as English as he could possibly be. In fact, he himself recently came out of quarantine to hear cases, including my own. Duran having a good laugh. He said the granny killed me, pleading with her AirPods on. Mess with granny, rocking some AirPods. Again, Karen is wondering how she got approved. Some of you are asking about the the other young man. Sarah says, I'm loving these granny impressions. Oh, Lord. Granny soon be calling me. Be like, Miss Sandy, I heard you were talking bad about me and I don't like it. Not one bit. I don't deserve that. It's all right, Granny. It's going to be A-okay. Lillian says, ha, ha, ha. Sandra, you crack me up. Granny's in the spotlight. Valerie says the Cayman Islands are doing a far better job protecting its citizens than America. Yeah, it was selfish and arrogant, as the judge said. You better believe it. Regulations have not changed to allow tourists. They haven't. So I do not know how she got in. I don't know. Thomas says he bought a house just so he could come here. Welcome, Thomas. We love it. We welcome you to the Cayman Islands. And as long as you adhere to the rules and regulations, we will have no problem with you, son. You can have as much enjoyment in our beautiful islands. We have lots of wonderful places to go. We have some of the friendliest people in the world. Amjad, I think, said something about deporting him. Nope, we can't deport him. He's Caymanian. So we can't deport our own citizens, folks. That's not how it works. Now, someone else was asking about the other young man who is 19 years old. We haven't heard anything about that case as yet. Having said that, I think pretty soon the courts are going to be wrapping up for the holidays because, believe it or not, next week, Friday, it is Christmas. So Christmas is upon us. So at some point, the courts will be closing shortly. So this appeal is scheduled at this point to go before the courts for the 22nd, which would be next week. I think, is that next week, Tuesday? Yes. They're going to confirm it because they need to get some judges. It's kind of like an emergency hearing. So they need to get some Court of Appeal judges together who will actually agree to hear this. And, folks, it is a hot mess. Tim Rice on Facebook says, lock them up. Twyla says, lock them up, playing with people's lives. Celicia says, if you were on a work permit and committed a crime, they certainly wouldn't limit your sentence to your work permit renewal date. That's the point the judge was making. The judge was like, why did the lower court put emphasis? Because she said, I'm giving you 40 hours, but that's the most I can give you because you're leaving. And I'm thinking how much time you need. And the Grand Court judge was like, that doesn't make any sense. However, Celicia, we see that happening all the time with tourists who come in and get a slap on the wrist for firearm offenses. And it's something we've always wondered about. A bullet is found in this suitcase, a handgun is found. They go to court the next day. Oh, I got to get back on the plane or I got to go. They get fined $1,000. They're on their way. That exact same offense, if you were a Caymanian, would land you in jail for 7 to 10 years because we have in this country, unlike in the US, a mandatory, right, minimum sentence. The judge has no discretion to give you anything less than 7 years if you plead guilty, 10 years if you plead not guilty and you're found guilty. So in other words, you waste the court's time, you make the court go through a trial, you're going to jail for 10 years. And there are Caymanians who have been sent, they spent their entire life being upstanding people, working hard, whatever. Gun was found in their house and they went to jail for 7 years or 10 years, respectively. You come here as a tourist, you're going to pay a $500 fine, $200 for court time, and you're back on the next plane. It makes no sense. Sue wants to know, when did the law go into effect? It went into effect on the 27th. So let me clarify the timeline for you guys. You remember with the Canadian couple? Sorry, drinking my water. Dr. Pascal. When their situation happened, it was revealed shortly thereafter, because everybody's like, how did they pay a $10,000 fine? Then it came to our attention that what really had happened is the court had no choice. So the court can only enforce what is in the law, right? What the legislators have done. And it turns out that despite the fact that the legislators had passed the legislation to increase the fine to $10,000 and so on, they had not yet gazetted it. So it wasn't law. And what they then did was, once this breach happened with the couple where they were all over the place, right? That happened November the 23rd is when we reported on it. I think they were in court like that day, the day before. All of a sudden, the government realized, oops, we forgot to sign off and gazette this, so it's not enforceable. That is why they only got charged $1,000. So they rushed quick time, gazetted it, and it went into force on November the 27th. Unfortunately for Skylar, the same day that she came in, and she breached quarantine on the 29th when she went to the event. You know what we would say in the Caribbean, Sue? That is what you call bad luckiness. Just bad timing for poor little Skylar. But the irony of it all is the judge was basically letting her get away with, in some respects, some people think, even less than the Canadian couple, because they paid a $1,000 fine, but this kid is paying no fine. Because remember now, the $2,600 she's paying isn't a fine. It's the government isolation fee that she's required to pay because they moved them from a private facility to government. Now, think about this for a second. When all of this happened, and this is how young people just ain't thinking straight, but it also shows you the privileged mentality of these two young people, right? The thing that shocked me to find out was that, what's his name, VJ, requested that the two of them be permitted to quarantine together. Say, what? Like, no, definitely not. This ain't a honeymoon, son. Quarantine together, that would be rewarding you for what you have just done. Pump the brakes on that. Lord, VJ. Eden says, I can't believe it. She's an honor student, medical student, with such disregard for health safety protocols or policies. Apparently she's pre-med, I think was what Granny said. Shirley wants to know, how safe is the jail Skylar is kept in? Child, please. That is the safest place in the world, except during an earthquake, which hopefully there won't be one. What's the likelihood that her counsel could argue that she should be released early because she's going to get the hell beaten out of her in jail? Nope. There will be none of that, Shirley. In fact, Fairbanks is so safe that they don't have prison cells. It's like a dorm setup. It's a dormitory setup. So they just have cots and they're okay. I'm not saying that prison, that anybody wants to go to prison. It's not luxurious, but I think they still have the beauty cosmetology program there. So the worst that might happen to Skylar is she might get a bad hair job. Like somebody might put in the wrong chemicals trying to dye her hair or something else. I don't know. The other thing that was interesting is a lot of people commenting about how when she's being hauled away, oh, well, she's wearing a mask and the prison guard isn't. This is what some of our American friends were saying in her defense. Folks, do not be stupid. The reason why Skylar was wearing a mask is she was trying to hide her face in the cameras, really. When she was in court, she was not wearing a mask. When she was walking around the courthouse, she was not wearing a mask. So this wasn't about that. This was about, oh, shoot, the cameras are going to be out front recording me and taking my picture. Let me try to cover up and hide my face. So that is why Skylar was wearing a mask. We're not required to wear a mask here in the Cayman Islands. So this isn't about her all of a sudden being a good little girl. Look at how the truth can be so twisted. Oh yeah, well look, now she's wearing a mask. Well, she sure didn't wear it on the Sunday when she was out, hanging out with people's children when she should have been wearing one. Oh gosh. Celicia says, if I was one of the people that got quarantined because of her, I would sue her for damages. Well, it's certainly something to be considered, I must say. Because again, those persons have had to expend money and lose their vacation time from work, which is wrong. Amjad said there's a double standard. Eden says, Allison agreed, like UI dependent tourism. We've given so much to keep our country safe. And that's why this and the teacher extended vacation thing really ticks me off. Eden, I'm going to actually talk about that. I've been meaning to put up a story because you're going to find it interesting in terms of how many teachers have taken advantage of that. Allison was saying not only did she break out responsibly, she went to a public event with hundreds of people because she thinks we are a joke. She put all of our sacrifice and hard work at risk. Absolutely. Crystal says now the precedent has been set. Let's see who else will do it. Hopefully nobody else. Catherine confirms that we are certainly not a third world country. Folks, I need one quick break here. Give me one quick second. All right, folks, my apologies. Yeah, Catherine, it's funny how people could make such a comment about the Cayman Islands. I mean, sometimes I feel like we are a little bit of a banana republic, but not because we really are. It's just that some of the decisions that are made in this country make you wonder if we're heading in that direction. But yeah, we're definitely not third world by any stretch of the imagination, Troy says. And voted for Trump. Well, I don't know if she's a Trump supporter or not. The Cayman Islands always has a bad reputation in the media. Catherine says, why the race card? I'm guessing, Catherine, you're referring to the comments here from this poster. I don't really know. I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with, in my opinion, again, race, because that's the point that I'm saying. Is, the judge was not seeing color. I mean, I honestly do not believe that played any part in this. And in fact, we have a 19-year-old Caymanian kid who is Caymanian, who has also breached quarantine. And I think that he should get whatever the courts throw at him, because he's breached quarantine on more than one occasion, 2 occasions that the authorities know about. And others are claiming even more than that, because he was out at a nightclub and vaping and doing this and doing that. So we have not yet heard what his, what will happen to him. And I do understand his mother's saying she's trying to play the, oh, he's mentally ill card. But I don't know how sympathetic the judge is going to be, because guess what? University kid, 19 years old. If he can hold it down in university, he can't have that kind of a mental deficiency. And as a parent, if you knew that he did, my question is, did he sign the document when he came in? Remember the same document? Did he sign that document before returning to the Cayman Islands saying, yes, I understand, and I will adhere to all the procedures, blah, blah, blah? Because if he did, now listen to this little nugget. If he did that, and you as a mother allowed him to do that, and at that point you made no argument about him having a mental deficiency, but yet he can enter into contracts, because normally people who have a mental deficiency are not permitted to enter into contracts, you're going to have a bit of a problem if the lawyer is smart. Because what right-thinking mother would allow a child who now she claims has a mental deficiency and can't be held responsible for his behavior because of it, would allow her son to sign a contract, a very serious contract, saying that you understand? Not only that, but what mother, knowing that her son has a mental deficiency, would allow him to go in quarantine at a government facility alone? Well, the argument ramped up and it flipped. That's why he went from a government facility to being at home, because, oh, he needs his mama and he needs my help. Does he really? Because if that was the truth, you would have never allowed him to go in a government facility to begin with. So I think now certain people are playing on the sympathies of the people in power to try to make a convenient argument to keep him out of jail. But remember what his little 10-year-old sister said? Oh boy, he's going to jail. Even a 10-year-old knows better. Let me just show you that video in case you've forgotten what the little girl said.
Hello, if you're from Cayman, please stay. My brother has COVID and he was supposed to stay in quarantine in isolation at the house for 2 weeks. He jumped out a window upstairs. I don't know how he did that, and he's not dead, but hopefully he's not dead, so that's good. Please get the lookout out of him. His name is Aaron Montemayor. Well, his full name is Aaron Ronaldo Montemayor. If you find any clues about him, please comment or DM me or something, cause he's going to jail, cause yeah, he escaped the isolation, and just please ask someone if they know him, like, please. Thank you.
Well, folks, the 10-year-old is a smart kid. She said he is going to jail. If you know where he is, please, please tell him to come home, because he's going to jail. So if she knew, I don't know what else there is to know. Look at this. The girl's grandmother, this is from one of the articles, Jenny Mack, told the AP that she reached out to U.S. President Donald Trump and received an email from a staffer saying the White House would look into the matter. Lord Jehovah. You would have thought that we just issued this girl a death sentence and she's going to be executed before Christmas. Really? Entitlement is what this is all about, folks. Reaching out to the president? Are you kidding me? I wish to God Donald Trump would call our, what's his name? He would call our premier and have anything to say. Because honestly, the premier should hang up the phone on him. Be like, Trump, hurry up and get out of the office and leave me alone. Have a Merry Christmas. All right, Donald, don't come with your shenanigans. We are not up for it. This is just ridiculous. The memes have begun. Twitter deciding if Skylar and VJ are white. Oh my God. You guys are crazy. Ay, ay, ay. What a hot mess. I do not know what to say. Another beautiful day in paradise. Tracy says, who TF does she think she is? Above the law? Good job. Make her pay for her time in jail too. We do it at our expense. It's okay. We're going to feed her and make sure she's all right. Isadora said, what I heard her grandma saying as to why she should not be jailed is typical of white privilege. If someone had died because of her, what would the reaction have? Would the reaction have been the same? I don't even know what kind of privilege it is, to be honest. I don't know if it's white privilege, if it's just stupid privilege. I mean, I don't even know. What I do know is, boy, we have a lot of photos now of Skylar that we can add for the follow-up stories because they have dug deep. Americans are good at investigative reporting. They have dug deep and found a whole lot of photos of her. Hot mess. Wow. Letter of apology. What a hot mess. Unbelievable. Catherine says that tweet you read, oh, why the race card? Yeah. People just get angry and they want to throw anything out there. Tracy says, F the guilt card. It's not like 2020 has been a good year. What does FPR stand for? Oh, for anyone. COVID kicked us all on our ass and sadly still is. Yes, Tracy. Gavin says a 19-year-old is an adult in the eyes of the law. That's right. But they're going to argue diminished capacity, Garvin, sorry. Which again, if that is truly the case, there's certain things that you would not have been allowing him to do. So I question the authenticity of that. Crystal says, yes, hot mess. I'm going to get some CMR t-shirts that say hot mess because as you guys know, I say that all the time on the show. Karen is having a good laugh. Crystal said I no longer feel sorry for her. Hi, Lillian. Grammy voted for Trump. Oh, Lord. Carol says, Carol, I think this is the first time I've ever heard you use such language. Karen says, FFS, seriously? Get over it, Grandma. Entitlement indeed. Sharon says, OMG. Good evening, Nancy. Tracy says, what a bunch of crybabies. Should have thought of all of this before they broke the law. The other thing is, I kind of have to wonder about Skylar's parents. Now, surely they knew that she was coming here, and her dad probably knew that the boyfriend had a jet race ski. Did anybody think to sit down with Skylar and say, honey, you're leaving on today's date. The jet ski race is in 2 days. Make sure you don't go out to that. I mean, did anybody have a conversation with Skylar? I know she's 18, but, you know, she is in medical school, but she seems a little bit dumb at the same time. So I don't know. Mark says, Trump, look here, not today, Bobo. She's in a hotel without the resort charge. Woo, she'll be okay. Shirley says, anyone's keeping score on which country has the most expatriate scoundrels and came out in 2020? By my account, it's Canada. Woo, hot mess. Tracy lives in New Zealand, and we have 0 cases of community third. Wow, congratulations, Tracy. Jessica's here for it. She says, I'll be one of the first ones to get one of those shirts. Yes, honey, they're coming. I actually finalized the first merchandise order today. So that's going to be mugs, CMR mugs. And we're getting the little, what do you call the little pocket things that you put in the back of your phone? Since we're all messaging CMR and sending all your tips and so forth in. Allison says, I bet Granny is quick to say that the innocent Black teens who were shot and killed by police would still be alive today if they would have complied, while calling her adult granddaughter a teen and crying about her getting a slap on the wrist for not complying. It's a hot mess. Let me just see, folks, we've only got an hour. Let's just review the coverage that we got. So here we go. This is some of the media coverage that we got today from this story.
The story of an American teenager facing jail time in the Cayman Islands for breaking the Caribbean nation's COVID rules. Skylar Mack left quarantine early to watch her boyfriend compete in a jet ski competition. Now she's paying the price. Deborah Roberts has the story. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning, George. The Caymans, an island of about 70,000, hasn't really been hit hard by the coronavirus. About 300 reported cases, a handful of deaths. But officials are determined to keep the virus at bay, so they're taking a tough stance against this American teen visiting from Georgia. This morning, trouble in paradise for an American teenager facing 4 months behind bars for breaking COVID quarantine rules in the Cayman Islands.
She was taken to court. She pled guilty to a single charge of failing to comply with Regulation 3 of the COVID-19 regulations.
According to officials, 18-year-old Skylar Mack traveled to the Caribbean island on November 27th and was required to quarantine for 14 days. But just 2 days later, after testing negative, she allegedly left where she was staying to watch her boyfriend, professional jet ski racer 24-year-old Vanjay Ramgeet, compete, who was also arrested and charged with aiding and abetting. According to reports, Mack removed the wrist monitor given to visitors arriving on the island after calling the public health department to have it loosened.
She's able to take off the bracelet the following day and attend a jet ski event.
This video capturing the event where Mack and Ramgeet are said to have interacted with some people for more than 7 hours without masks, leading to the quarantine of several families at the event, officials detaining the two. The couple initially ordered to pay a fine and perform 40 hours of community service, but prosecutors, believing that ruling too lenient, are now appealing the decision and pushing for a 4-month prison sentence.
Skylar is the last person we thought something like this would happen to. And the fact that this can happen to a kid like her is scary.
Her grandmother says Skylar, a pre-med honors student, has tested negative a few times since arriving on the island. Both Mack and Ramgeet appearing before court, apologizing, each with a letter. Mack writing, I made the biggest mistake of my life so far. I want to take this opportunity to express my deepest apologies to both the government and the community of the Cayman Islands. Ramgeet saying, I should have known better than to put our community at risk as I did.
4 months for breaching isolation when you were negative. Why did she have to be the example?
Mack's family is pointing to those negative tests and saying that she is extremely remorseful. They argue that in this case, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. George?
Okay, Deb, thanks very much.
An American teenager and her boyfriend have been sentenced to 4 months in prison in the Cayman Islands for violating coronavirus restrictions. 18-year-old Skylar Mack broke her 14-day quarantine to watch her boyfriend in a jet ski competition. They're accused of interacting with people at that event for hours without wearing masks or social distancing. Her boyfriend, who's from there, has been charged with aiding and abetting her. Officials say their initial sentence of a fine and community service just wasn't enough of a deterrent.
All right, folks, all over the news. And thank you, Carol. It's not the Caymans, it's the Cayman Islands. Yes, by now you should all know it because you're using your name in every single TV show and every single movie about money laundering. So at least get the name right. It's not the Caymans. Tracy says, good job, Grandma. The thing about Grandma, she seems a little bit confused as well as the family, pointing to the negative test. She was 2 days in her quarantine, folks. So that doesn't mean anything. The incubation period, while you stay in quarantine for 14 days, there's a good reason why you stay in quarantine for 14 days. So that's a bunch of, I don't even know what to call that. That's just stupid. So yes, Shirley, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm hoping that reality TV crew's gone. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the morning. Folks, tomorrow is Friday. We will have a show starting at 7:30 for 2 hours. So make sure you tune in. We've got lots more to talk about. Yes, Allison says it's scary that a teen like her. What does that mean? Only God knows, Grandma. Grandma, I don't know. She might be an honor pre-med student, but you might have kind of slipped up in the accountability department. This is a girl, a teen like her is a teen who could think ahead, call public health to come out, replace her wristband, tell them a lie, replace her wristband with a view to slipping it off later on, sneaking out to an event. Not a teen like her doesn't even plan ahead, because Skylar could have avoided all of this had she come 16 days before and given herself enough time to be cleared and to get out of quarantine. A teen like her, when the police and the authorities first spoke to her, lied to the authorities that she had been here for 2 weeks. That's the kind of teen that you didn't think this would happen to. Doesn't really sound like Skylar is all that stellar of a teen. So yeah, hashtag a teen like her is now going to get used to jail for a little bit. And maybe she'll become a better teen like her. Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate the love and support. Big shout out to everyone who has been donating to my fund to pay my ticket. As you guys know, I've got a fine to pay and I better pay it, because if I do not pay it, I'll be spending 6 months in the big house. I wouldn't say next to Skylar because she'll be gone by then. But I've got until March and I'm going to chip away at it every week, pay a little bit on it so that it disappears. So I don't have to go kick up my feet up in Fairbanks, because like I said before, and I'm going to say it again, folks, listen to me very carefully. I am too cute for prison, okay? Skylar is cute too, but I'm not prison material. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I stay out of prison. Can we get a praise the Lord and a hallelujah? All right, folks. That is all she wrote. Granny drinking too much of something. It's the eggnog, honey. 'Tis the season. It is what it is. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the program. I will see you all at 7:30 a.m. Get up early. I notice that school is out and the traffic has been beautiful. Now, while I've all got you tuned in, I'm going to play a couple of these videos about the legal services bill, because this is a real concern here in the Cayman Islands. Our premier and our existing government, which is this unity government led by the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, is up to some shenanigans when it comes to the legal profession. So I want you guys to listen to a series of videos that have been designed to explain some of the issues with that bill and why it is meant to undermine and cut off at the knees the Caymanian attorneys in an unfair manner. It's shocking that it's happening, but here you go, folks.
Using legislation to make an illegal act legal.
There are, I don't know how many, but there are still reports being received of persons who have no connection to these islands who purport to practice Cayman law overseas. There is nothing we can do about it.
The large Georgetown firms, and we know that they have, to this day, partners listed as practicing Cayman law who never have had a practice certificate issued by the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
And the partners in Cayman are complicit in that. And when you conspire to commit an offense in this jurisdiction, even if the offense is partly committed overseas, that's still a criminal offense.
It has been illegal, and we are now legitimizing an illegal activity.
Oh, well, we need to fix this overseas practice problem.
We are officers of the law. That must mean something, OC. This behavior where we send the average little kid to jail for if he has a spliff, and look at the behavior at those who run this country.
And we should be proud of this instead of talking it down on the talk shows, beating down our own image and jurisdiction while claiming to fly the Cayman flag like some kind of patriot.
I'm not sidetracking from this legal services bill, but then it creates so much more of conflicts of interest and issues of accountability and the lack thereof that you can go back and indemnify yourselves and so forth for past actions.
So when the world sees that
What do you think that does for our credibility on the global playing field?
Exactly. No wonder the EU will come down on us.
Who's trying to cause damage to the financial services industry? That affects us all.
Gosh.
Well, we don't need a controller now. We need to stop them because it's illegal. Prosecute them before the courts. They know what they told me, that they believe what they're doing is illegal under Section 10 of the current law. But everybody's turning a blind eye.
And we have turned a blind eye to that.
Despite all the motions that the government may bring to try to give them retroactive indemnity, that's not going to work. 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 What we're talking about here is the economic destruction, ultimately the economic destruction of this country.
The stage is big enough for everybody.
If they get the opportunity now to legitimize an enterprise where they can keep an anchor office in Cayman, employ a handful of Caymanians in that to meet our local immigration law, but to circumvent that immigration law by employing lawyers and support staff overseas in those satellite offices, how is it that it's not readily apparent that that is bad for the economics of Cayman Islands?
The pie is big enough for everybody. Do not try to hold back.
Well, there won't be any trickle down in terms of jobs for local support staff if the majority of the operatives are overseas.
It'll be an outflow rather than a trickle down.
and look, that's what destroyed the American economy.
Cayman law and legal services is now a global product that is eagerly sought after. They cannot, Mr. Speaker, live in their insular little bubble.
They could be anywhere in the world. Before you know it, tutus, they're going to be outsourcing the receptionist job to a call center in India or wherever, or in the UK or whatever their preference is. And clients will have no clue that they're not calling the Cayman Islands. It's just a matter of programming it in the switchboard, and all of a sudden you've got people answering a phone call in a shoebox in London. Folks, wake up.
The country is controlled by all of those other people that, from these same people now who's pushing their own laws to benefit themselves and their families overseas and their friends overseas to make money from this, using the Cayman Islands as a tool to make money.
They seem to believe, Mr. Speaker, that firms overseas which practice Cayman Islands law, that it results in the outsourcing of Cayman work, and that it takes away employment opportunities for Caymanian lawyers.
I am for holding people accountable and for ensuring at least that folks who live here can actually remain employed, because, you know, for every lawyer that we make redundant, that's about 2 or 3 Caymanians or 2 or 3 corporate assistants or 2 or 3 other persons who assist that lawyer not having a job.
Right? Half of the industry is going to be overseas. There's no doubt about that. You think about it, you can save, you know, several $1 million a year by just moving half your labor force overseas. Why wouldn't they do that? Oh, you'll hear, oh, well, there's many benefits to being in Cayman. Really? It's much easier to hire folks where they are or send them somewhere else where it's cheaper to live. You can then pay them less because they don't have to pay the high cost of living in Cayman. When you look at the numbers, and I've heard out of the Premier's mouth that it's 900 odd lawyers now that are called to Cayman Bar on the roll here.
There are at least 15 international law firms in Cayman, and the number of attorneys on the roll has increased from 163 in 1995 to somewhere around 900.
Wow.
We don't know how many are overseas, and what is being proposed is that we simply give an equal number of lawyers that each firm has, total lawyers, whether they Caymanian or expatriate in Cayman. It's the 1-to-1 ratio of lawyers to work in those overseas offices without a permit. What we forego in terms of permit fees alone, just to put numbers on this. Take the 22,000, let's assume 800 of those 900 attorneys work for the big firms. Times 800 by 22,000, the average work permit fee of 22,000. And you come up with $17.6 million per annum in fee revenue that we're foregoing. Imagine what the government could do, not just for the legal profession, you know, but for everybody in this country if it had an extra $15 million income from work permits for these firms. that can well afford that.
When Sam was saying just now, the $2,000 that they won't pay, pay that if you want to, but pay the work permit fees too.
Yeah.
Come down here and pay for the practicing certificate. Do what you need to do as long as this economy benefits.
They will get on the radio and they will urge members of this House to say that this is not a good thing, that we should not proceed with this legislation because this is hurting Caymanians. Seriously.
What do you think is missing here? What are we missing? Why don't they care? Why don't they get it? Did they not have the same struggles that a lot of Caymanian attorneys had? Are they in the back pockets of these big law firms now? What is going on here?
The expat lawyers are going to be the first casualty in this. They're going to be the first ones whose jobs are made redundant because it's cheaper to employ them or someone like them overseas in an affiliate office, either in their home jurisdiction or somewhere else.
When you have reached this point and you see it, you need to fight against it. And that's what I'm doing.
Okay, Steve?
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.